After living in the U.S. Virgin Islands for almost 6 years and with some sales experience, Sarah Lewandowski jumped straight into real estate and never looks back. Stick with us to hear how she hit the ground running, closing 39 transactions in her first year, totaling $11.8 million in sales volume. And she focused primarily on buyers. This is an episode you don't want to miss.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello, and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. I'm your host, Tina Lapp. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years, helping individuals enter and thrive in their new careers.
And hi, my name is Adam Ashba, real estate broker in the great state of Ohio, and I'm also an instructor at Hondros College by Colibri.
We are here today with Sarah Lewandowski. Sarah, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, where you live, and what company you're with?
Sure. My name is Sarah Lewandowski. I'm a realtor located in the South Jersey area. I'm currently with Compass, and I'm a solo agent.
All right. Well, Sarah, welcome. I'm glad you get to hang out with Tina today. Congratulations. Sarah just got back from not one, but two closings on a Tuesday, which that's kind of rare on a Tuesday. We always close on Friday. But Sarah, what were you doing before you became a real estate agent? What were you doing before?
So I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was always somehow in a sales capacity.
Okay.
I started, my very first job was in a department store selling makeup. And ever since then,
Yeah.
I just kind of fell in love with the wait. I don't have to work for just one number kind of thing. It could be based on performance. So I kind of fell in love with that because I always say anybody that's getting me on salary is getting a deal. I always will be maximizing, those hours, that time, especially in this industry, if you're a workaholic, which I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but there is as much as you can be as busy as you like. And that's always kind of what I've gravitated towards when it comes to careers.
Yeah. So that's where I recognize you from, Macy's, when I would go in for my foundation.
Actually, Strawbridge's was bought by Macy's. So,
Oh, okay. See, I knew you from somebody. So, who inspired you to get into real estate? How did you go from makeup to real estate? It was someone, did you have a mentor or someone inspired you to make that plunge?
so it was kind
to
of an
real estate?
evolution. I started at makeup at 18. And then all
Okay.
through college, I was serving and waitressing and in hospitality. And that is also a similar position where, hours worked equals more money. When my
Yeah.
husband and I moved to the Virgin Islands in 2015, we were those people that just took a bag each and our pets and had an Airbnb for a week. And we were like, okay, let's see if we can make it. And ended up staying for about 6 years. And there I ended up getting into hospitality again, selling try it before you buy it vacation packages, not timeshare.
Oh, just clarify it, right?
Exactly. Because there's such a stigma. Although I will say, if
Right.
you use your timeshare, it's way worth it.
Sure.
But when we moved back in 2021, I do pride myself on taking advice. And people around me had always said I should get into real estate. So I was looking to make a move. And, I kind of ended up in a really great place with my real estate school that I picked. And he was like, listen, my teacher was like, I think you're going to do great at this. You should really pursue it. There's some huge people take the course and never do anything with it. And he was like, I think you should really pursue this. I think you're going to be great at it. So I followed her advice. Following advice is sometimes I think the biggest easy thing you can do.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, let's hear more about your real estate school.
Yeah. So, Sarah, I got to ask, you were in the U.S. Virgin Islands. When did you decide to take classes? Were you still in the U.S. Virgin Islands or were you back in the continental U.S.?
No. So in the USVI, you actually don't need a license to sell timeshare or anything like that. That is very
Mhm.
state specific and destination specific.
Yeah.
When I was in the Virgin Islands, what it did do was let me to have sort of a reset with life and career. It's kind of It's really an amazing space to be somewhere where you don't know anyone because you can really be your
Yeah.
authentic self and
Hmm.
kind of let go of any pretenses or expectations that you may or may not feel like you have in your current life. Being away from family, friends, everyone that knows you allows you a really fresh start to do things that you wouldn't normally necessarily have chased. And also, if you're from the East Coast,
Yeah.
you look like a freaking hustler because everyone is on island time. Uh,
Oh,
That's great. That's great. So, when did you start the process of getting your real estate license?
So we moved back to my hometown of New Jersey in 2021. And I got my license in October. I guess I took my class in October, got licensed in November. And my first accepted offer was Christmas Eve.
That's incredible. So, we're going to dive into that for sure, because that's what we want to hear. But
hmm
before we do, talk a little bit about the process of getting your license. So, you're in the US Virgin Islands, you move back to the New Jersey area, you decide to go to school. How'd you find a school? How'd you take your classes? Walk us through that.
I'm sort of a person that's an extremist. I believe in like I'm just an extreme person. So when people had said, I took mine over 3 years, over 3 months, all that stuff, I was like, I just need the fastest solution.
I
So
love
I
it.
did I think it was a 2-week class that ended up being about 8 days total, like 4 days each week of 8-hour days.
wow.
All via Zoom because things were still it's nice to have that option actually coming off of COVID. I'll give COVID
Mhm.
that. It allowed still we're doing this because of COVID probably. Um so it allowed I really thrived in that. I prefer in person as to anything online, but this was great because it was kind of a hybrid. Um,
Yeah. That's great. So you were able to do the classes. You got through it in 2 weeks. Then what'd you do? How'd you study? Did you have enough time to study? Was it hard to get through? How'd you do it?
I just really feel like if you are interested in something, you don't really need a motivator, right? Like if it's something that you're interested in, it pulls you in. Um, I didn't need anyone to say, "Hey, take the take practice quizzes online or whatever." Also, I mean, anyone in this industry can also know right away, like typically what you're taking your test on has nothing to do with the day to day business of real estate. So I wasn't sure if I would love it, even after having taken the test and passed. I was like, you're learning about egresses and things like that, poet systems that have rarely come up in the day-to-day of real estate. If I had known it was going to be let's put deals together, let's be in front of clients, those are all the things that I know that I'm good at in the real world that I kind of didn't merge that they would be coming together at some point. So after I took my test and passed, I was looking for where am I going to start, right? Because there's so many hats you wear in this industry, right? There's marketing, there's sales, there's the paperwork on the back end. And I just knew I couldn't learn it all at once. So I knew it was probably the best fit to look for a team. And I had a realtor friend who I actually used to sell makeup with that I saw she had a really great year her first year and she was a teacher. And I was like, wow, she sold, 12 houses last year. That sounds like a lot. I guess she left her teaching job.
Hmm.
She sold 12 just being a part time agent. So we
Good.
chatted and I ended up joining that team.
Well, Sarah, full disclosure, if you were still in the Virgin Islands, I was going to have Tina and I fly down and interview in person, but that just wasn't part of the budget this week. But let me ask you this: so, what did you expect? Like, is real estate kind of what you expected after you got out of real estate school, or was it more challenging or easier? Because you're doing great. I mean, you're. So, what's your thoughts? Do you have any expectations?
I always set the bar really low. I always am like, I'm gonna try this. The failure
Hmm.
rate is really high in real estate. I knew that going in.
Yeah,
Um, it
unfortunately, yeah.
really well, there also is a very low entry rate, to be fair.
Hmm.
Real estate classes are not expensive. That is not the expensive part
No,
of like anyone can
they're
become a
not.
realtor. They have very, very, very tiny qualifications for that. Um, so I really didn't have a lot of expectations around it. I remember standing up at our like inaugural going to the board meeting at the beginning of the year and we had to go up there and say how many houses we wanted to sell and I looked at my team leader and I was like, I have no idea. Like, I've been at this since November. I've never done this before. I have nothing to compare it to. It's the largest thing
Mm-hmm.
anyone can purchase. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, how many houses did you sell your first year? And she said, 37. And I said, okay, then I guess I'll say 20. She's like, I think you could do more than that. And I said, well,
Wow.
if you sold
And this
37,
is your realtor friend?
sorry,
Or who is this? This wasn't your realtor friend because she sold
no,
12.
this was
Who
the
is
team
this?
leader.
Oh, the team lead. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, good for her.
So
Congrats.
she's like, I think you can do more than 20. And I said, how many did you do? She said 37. And I said, well, I'm going to be
Got it. Okay.
38 this year. And I'm a competitive person. So I was like, I guess I'll say
Oh,
38. And
all right. Well, let me ask you. Oh, go ahead.
no,
Go
no.
ahead.
And that was like,
Yeah.
that was kind of, we talked about that all year. Like, I had at that point, I think I had 2 or 3 under contract. Like, my first contract was Christmas Eve. My second was New Year's Eve. Um, and just kind of had the,
Because that was my next question. So you got your license in November.
hmm
Is that what you said?
hmm
And you had 3 in contract before January, or
um, I
that
had
within a
2
couple
under
months?
contract before January. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So like, how did you? Maybe you're jumping ahead a little bit, but like, how did you acquire those that fast?
So in
Yeah.
going into where I knew I wanted to be, I knew I couldn't learn everything at once, right? So I was like, let me just get to, I call it like my genius zone. Getting in front of people is what I enjoy. I enjoy helping
Mm-hmm.
people. I enjoy the interaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paperwork, I do not enjoy. So I was like, let me find a space where they provide leads because I had been away for
Okay.
6 years, right? So I didn't have a sphere of influence really. I had been away for all
Mm-hmm.
that time. And they provided leads from all different sorts of lead bases, Zillow,
Okay.
realtor.com, all of that kind of open houses. So I really just leveraged trying to be in my strength zone so that I could figure out if I always really, really go hard in the beginning to see like if I failed, if I had the worst year ever, like what would that look like? Because nothing looks as bad as your
Mm-hmm.
first year, usually. um, but yeah, so I kind of leveraged putting everything else on the team and just relationships. Like if I meet a lead, can I convert them kind of thing?
Okay. So did you do much marketing, or did you buy like lead gen, purchasing leads was your primary source of um, clients?
So I didn't, as like per the team structure, everything was marketed to the team, not to the individual. Well,
Okay.
her name had been established. The team name and group had been established for like a few
Got it.
years. But
Okay.
most of my business, I think, 36 of the 39 transactions I did my first year were lead based, and like 3 of them were sphere.
Got it. Okay. So then how did you continue building those relationships? Because now you might be getting referrals and things from past clients. How do you continue that relationship? How do you keep building that with your past clients?
I
Any tips
really
there?
enjoy keeping in touch with my past clients.
Okay.
I've become friends with them on social media. I let them know that once the transaction is over, we are not done. I want to stay involved in their life. I love to see the things that they
Sure.
do, upgrading their home. If they need a person, I'm like, please don't hesitate to reach out. I I'm a big video texter too, which I think is kind of sets me apart a little bit.
Oh, yeah, you're the second person I've heard that
Yeah, so
the
and
last
even when
couple
I
weeks.
initially meet someone, like, as a lead, even after we have our first phone call or our first
Hmm.
interaction, I like to just, put up my phone and say, "Hey," like, send a little video to them because people don't do that, and people wanna understand that
No.
you actually are local to the area, you're currently living,
Uh-huh.
breathing, working here, and know that you're a real person, right? So, I feel like
Okay.
that was a strength in my conversion initially, not being afraid to turn the camera around, which a lot of people are. But I had
Hmm.
also come off of during COVID, I built a pretty strong social media following because the world shut down, so there were no resorts, right?
Right.
And I'm a
Yeah.
workaholic, so I got bored and I was like, maybe I'll try this influencing thing. So I already was not afraid to put myself out there, kind of thing.
So when you responded to a lot of the
Mhm.
leads, cold leads, well, warm, cold, whatever, Sarah, you would use video texting to be like, oh, that's not just a bot or AI,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
It's an actual person. Okay.
Yeah.
So they like, oh, she seems nice and real and things like that. So, okay.
I
Well, good
find
for
it
you.
really helps to build trust, especially if after we've
Hmm.
first met, you send that video and then you just I always say it doesn't get better than the first interaction, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's your lender, anybody, right? Mattress salesman, whoever it is, if your first interaction isn't amazing, it's probably not going to get better.
Yeah.
So the first one has to be really impressive. You have to show up. People have to see you, right? I always think that your biggest strength is like your superpower is your authenticity. So if they can feel
Hmm.
your authenticity
Yeah.
coming through. That's it.
Hmm.
There's nothing else. Who
Yeah. That's
it's not
how they
even about the
relate.
house. It's they trust you to help them find it, right?
I always joke, Sarah, that I say I get more likes and hearts on social media posts when my kids playing soccer than I do if I have the best real estate deal in the world, right? That's what they care about. So in your first year, did you like? So was your team leader your mentor? Is that the person that really helped guide you your first year? You couldn't do it without him.
She
Is that
was.
or her?
She really was. I take a lot of
Okay,
guidance from those that have done it better before me, or have done it
yeah,
before me, I should say.
smart.
If you don't have a role model that's consistently helping you raise the bar for yourself, then I find it's really difficult. I also love accountability. So not everyone does. I love it because I'm like, call me out, please call me out. I really do think it just helps you become a better agent, a better person.
Hmm.
Accountability
That's
is
how you grow.
everything.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, you're going through this and you've got a pretty busy first year. You're jumping into this, you got your team, you are super busy. How'd you get through it? What were your challenges? How'd you balance the rest of your life with your work life?
I would say I didn't. I would say I didn't. I had the freedom to do that. My husband and I had just moved back, right? We didn't have children, so I had the freedom and I had the luxury to do that. I know not everyone has that luxury. I would say that I
Hmm.
worked harder, not smarter. I learned a lot, right? Like you learn so much more by your failures than you do by your wins. Um, I also was going through a fertility journey at that time that I was kind of not addressing the emotional fallout of that. I was like pouring all of that into work, right? So maybe not necessarily like the best way of dealing with it, but that was my version of how to deal with it. I was like, I'm just going to keep these blinders on and not think about that. And I'm just going to like pour it all into this. So I would say I didn't balance it. And I would say it's still a juggle, not necessarily a balance. I think it's hard in this industry
Hmm.
because you do care about your client. I'm a traditional agent. I don't really do a lot of investor clients. I do more traditional family buy and sell. And you do like step into these clients' lives at some of the most integral parts of them. And and that's not contained in a 9 to 5, right? So it is something that I do struggle with defining those boundaries.
Yeah, and I think, that's real. I think a lot of people have those challenges and it sounds like over time you've learned to balance that a little bit better. But it's a constant challenge for
I would
sure.
say it's my biggest challenge for sure. Cause we actually
Yeah.
do, I have a 20-month-old now. So, and she
Oh,
doesn't go to
congrats.
daycare. Like she's with us all the time. So like today I was like, when can I stay? Oh, nap time is, she'll be down for a nap right now.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. And so today you are juggling some of these things a little bit more than you did your first
Hmm.
year and balancing all of that. When you first started, did you focus more on buyers or sellers or pretty equal?
Oh, I was in a seller's market helping buyers. So
Uh-oh.
my first year, I think I sold 36 buyers and 3 listings. And those listings happened because at some point those buyers decided they wanted to sell to get a better budget or better something else, right? So
Hmm.
buyers I
Yeah.
have on lockdown. Listings were something that came later and I still
Okay.
feel like I haven't quite perfected. Because with
Yeah.
buyers, there's always another house, right? There's always something else you can show them. If it's not the one, there's always another one, right? But with a listing, it's a whole different skill set. It's
Yeah.
mastering that relationship with a client enough to be able to be their not be their friend and have the hard conversations, you know?
And so
That's
your
what they want.
first year really was specialized in buyer representation. Did you work with first time home buyers?
A ton, and
Yeah.
those are the situations where I'm so grateful. Those are the referrals that you'll get for life, right? Because you
Hmm.
changed an entire family's trajectory of their future generational wealth. Like, if they're a first-time home buyer and no one in their family has bought before, they're 4 times wealthier than the next renter, right? So you are changing the trajectory of these families' lives, and I take that really seriously. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah, yeah, and I love how you think about that because you have a sales background, yet you're talking about really what inspires and motivates you is helping these buyers and making a difference. And a lot of people think about real estate as sales, and you've got that sales background, but gosh, your heart's in it. It really sounds like your heart's in
Total.
this.
Like, my husband's like, "Put it down. Put down the phone,"
Yeah.
right? But you are like, people count on you. It's a scary process. I think that, if you can really tap into your client, I always say to my people, I need to live in your brain, right? Like, I need to be able to live in your brain for the time that we're looking or under contract or whatever, or we're listing, whatever it is. Because I need to be an extension of you. I need to act how you would act in a certain situation. Also, if I can save you from knowing anything, I'm going to. So I need to understand how you would react, and I need to know you well enough to know that, you know?
That's inspiring and very personal. It's not surprising that people get their attachment to you and come back for multiple transactions. So any particular client or experience with a client that stand out to you from your early days?
Oh, totally. My first year was like such a blur. And my team lead at the time, she was like, she had sold 38 homes, right? I had sold 39,
Hmm.
or whatever, that close to that.
Incredible.
But she was like, you definitely worked harder.
Not to brag, Sarah, not to brag.
No, not yet. But she had said, she's like, you definitely worked harder your first year, which I'll take. I don't like. Listen, this isn't like who's winning here, but like, I do struggle with putting myself in those rooms for the continuing education or to streamline things. I'm like, oh, it worked. I'll keep
Mm.
doing it. It worked. I'll keep doing it. The innovation piece, I think, as an agent, is the hardest part to keep up with. Technology changes, and there's so many different platforms we have to be interacting with. And keeping up with all that is really, really hard. Um, but my first year, I absolutely have one close to my heart. Her name was Lakia, and she moved down from New York. It's literally taking me back to 1980s feels, because she came down on the train. I drove her around in my car. Like, that's how that's like how old school it was. And we looked at like 3 to 5 houses. She ended up pursuing one, but she basically bought this house as a single mom with her tax return. Um, and she had one son at the time and a daughter. And we closed on that house. And since then, she has up leveled her whole life. She has gotten her bachelor's degree. She got engaged. Then she got married. Now she's having a third baby. She has sent me so many referrals. Um, and it
Mm.
is,
That's great.
those are the ones that fill your cup, right? Because she's she's changing the trajectory of her family's lives. Like, people came to see this housewarming. It was the first person that I bought in her extended family. People came in from Georgia to her housewarming party. It was that big of a
Wow.
deal.
Sounds like a fun party. We weren't invited, were we, Tina? So, well then, so things have changed in your life since you started. You got a toddler, right? Running around. So where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, how would you like your real estate,
Always
like
such a big
broker, own your
question.
own shop? Yeah. Where do you see yourself?
So I feel like I was on a team for the first 2 years, and then I actually went solo last January. So I've been solo for a
Okay.
little bit over a year now. I was forcing myself to do the things that I never learned to do on a team, like the paperwork piece, the back end piece, A lot of
Okay.
the things that were kind of set it and forget it, that I knew that if
Hmm.
so many people when I was leaving were saying like, you should start your own team, you should start your own team. And I'm like, I've sold 70 houses in the last 2 years, but I don't know how to write a contract, right? Like full disclosure, like I am so blind to the paperwork piece, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
I've been forcing myself to do all that in the last year, which is a huge learning curve. I would love in the next 5 years to start a team, to also, you know, I- become a broker, not necessarily open my own brokerage, but just have that level of education and experience. I think just adds so much to your resume. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, big goals, but I think that they're achievable for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of experience that you can pass on. And I always say that it's important that you take things that you learn and you share it with others. I think that's our what we're supposed to do in life. Call it karma, God, or whatever. I think it's just good juju sometimes to do that. So,
Well,
so I guess. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
I
What?
agree. Could not agree.
Yeah. So I guess before we start heading into the lightning rounds, that's coming up. So be ready, Sarah. Tina's ready for you. So any tips or tricks that you can share? Like, hey guys, any messages, tips and tricks you can give some to new agents, or maybe people just in real estate school now to get ready to set them up so they can get their feet ground running.
Sure. I think that there's so many avenues that you can go into. My sister and I were just talking about this because she's talking about getting her license. And I
Okay,
wouldn't say
cool.
she's as open, like, via social media and things like that as I am. Like, I will post
Mm.
I don't care. I'll, like, have a live while I'm, like, getting ready. I don't that stuff does not
Oh.
it doesn't everyone does it, right? And, like,
Uh-oh. Yeah.
relatability is, like I'm telling you, you get more interaction and comments and posts and whatever when you're not as perfect as it should be, right?
Yeah,
Um,
the boring stuff always gets their attention.
always, 'cause even if people wanna be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you have something on your face," or whatever it is. um, Whatever it is. But I feel like again, my vulnerability is always like being open and being real, and people connect to that, right? But there are so many other
Mhm.
spaces you can be in this industry. You can deal with investors who are all about the numbers. For me, I'm like, that's a nightmare. They want all this upfront and no commitments made. Um,
Mhm.
it's really, I would say, find your niche as far as what brings you joy. If you feel excited and it fills your cup to talk to people at open houses, or talk to a first time home buyer, or talk to somebody that's about to downsize and kind of figure out where they're going to start that next chapter of their life, whatever niche it is that you feel excited when you're in that moment, that's what you should go with. That's always what I feel like, because if you're trying to force yourself to be in a position that doesn't bring you excitement or joy, you're just not it's not going to be for you, right?
Mhm.
I think those are great comments, Sarah. And it sounds like your niche is working with home buyers. I mean, sellers more too, but that fills your cup. You
Mhm.
help people sort of find their next chapter in their lives in their new home, and that could be really rewarding. And like you said, you got to find your thing.
Total.
So
And there's so many different forms you can do. You can be a transaction coordinator if you love paperwork and only want to do that. Like, there's so many different things. You could be a showing agent if you don't let the commitment to one buyer.
Mhm.
Like, there's 10,000 different hats you can wear. You can wear a marketing hat.
Yeah.
You can do social media for realtors. There's just so many different avenues. So whichever one it is that brings you joy is the one to pursue, I think.
I think that's great. And I do want to dive a little bit deeper because our listeners are individuals just getting started in real estate. So some of this stuff isn't totally clear to them today, like it wasn't to you a couple of years ago. So a little bit more about you were part of a team and you did certain things. Now that you're going out on your own, talk a little bit more about the difference with going out on your own now.
So I'm with Compass now, and I did a lot of vetting prior to deciding where I wanted to go. And I knew I was always great with CRMs, right? Because they kind of they churn the cream to the top, I guess. So you're seeing who's engaging the most and who wants to buy now. Because what's
Mhm.
not fun for me, I said to my girlfriend all the time, like, if this was like 90-day transactions and stuff, I would have never, I would have quit a long time ago. I'm happy I came in when I did, when it was a buyer's market. You have 30 days. You get Like, there's very little negotiation. I didn't have to really hone a lot of skill then, if I'm being honest. I had to get in front of people. I had to coach them how to win offers. Um, but that said, um, when you're on your own, then it's where am I getting my business, right? Where am I getting my business? And I'm someone who likes to take direction. I'm like a worker bee, not a queen bee. So I have to kind of reset my mindset a lot of the times, like, wait, you get to decide this. You get to decide if you want to partner with someone to do Zillow, or you want to spend that money or whatever you. It's really hard for me to sometimes wrap my head around I'm the boss of my own business because I'm so used to being worker bait, right?
You are.
So where I ended up with Compass, the sales manager, when I was kind of interviewing them, was like, I just want you to know it is a lonelier place, to be on your own versus on a team. It's a lonelier spot. There's not as much camaraderie. She's like, you have a little one, you won't be in the office as much. She was right about every single thing. And those are the things that still are what I miss about a team. I love a team. It has to be the right fit. It has to grow with you. I have found with teams, like, you'll go where you're inspired and you'll stay where you can grow. If you can't do those two things, it's not a fit anymore. And that's how it became not a fit for me.
Yeah.
But I still love the camaraderie
I-
of a team and hope to have one of my own someday.
There you go. Do it on your own and start your own team. I love it. And it's great advice. It's certainly great advice for individuals getting started. And quite frankly, anybody. It's just good life advice. So we're going to have some fun and jump into our lightning round. We've mentioned it a couple times. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, not necessarily real estate related, just to learn a little bit about Sarah, about you. Come give us the answer, 60 seconds or less, just whatever comes to your mind. So if there's a book or a podcast that you would recommend listeners read or listen to, what would it be?
Jay Shetty podcast for sure. Like, he's amazing.
Okay. And tell us why. That's great. If we had a time machine and you could go back to the day you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself, or what might you do differently?
Oh, believing yourself more. Like, in any moment, you can do it if you really want to do it. You can figure it out, or someone will help you find the answer. Like, there always is a way to find the answer.
Great advice, and you've proved it. So that's great. If you could have dinner with one person, whether they're dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oprah. She is like a legend, an empire. She has built so many, I mean, and been told from the beginning that she wouldn't, but she's built so many different streams of media. I just find it so impressive. She was like an influencer before there was influencing.
And certainly helpful for real estate and how to, that's right. Unbelievable. Great thoughts. Tell us what you did at work yesterday, or today, if you'd rather.
It was kind of a wild day, actually. I have 3 closings this week, and I have 2 listings going active or live. So, and they're totally different skill sets, right? So, I will say my Achilles heel is still writing listing descriptions. Still, I don't use chat.
AI, Sarah, AI.
I will.
AI.
Everyone says that, but who reads a listing description? The seller. That's who reads it. Like, everyone else is
You're probably
really the photos are the things that are bringing them in. But I always want to do due diligence to the seller. I always ask them, please tell me what you'd like to see in the listing description. It takes me hours. I'm not gonna. It's definitely not time efficient, but I have found that, especially with listings, the more you listen and try to get to know your clients, the more you can have the hard conversations when you need to, right? Like, we're too high, we're this, we're that. So listing descriptions, last night, I actually had to go drop off a sign in a lockbox. Then I had to go to Penns Grove, which is 45 minutes away, to pick up a lockbox and keys for a closing today. That's a first-time buyer for $145,000, guys. He's buying a house. Really exciting for him. He's going to change his whole future. And then what else? I also was finalizing 2 other listings that are going active this weekend, setting open houses, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's a great lens into what the life of a real estate agent is, and just hearing like this is the real world, guys. These are the kinds of things you'll be doing. Just great insight into what may consist of a typical day.
Well, this is
So
not
that's
selling
great.
sunset. As much as I wanted to say that, I want to say that it is, and there are so many like amazing perks to our jobs, right? Looking at real estate is fun.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
definitely more than what it seems, right? People are like, oh, you make your own schedule. All you do is open homes for beautiful homes, beautiful houses, until you're like on your hands and knees, wet vacuuming, some seller's house that moved to Florida.
There you go. I mean, just some of those stories. There's the real world of real estate and doing whatever it takes. And yeah, maybe share a little bit more about that story with us. Do you have a second to do that?
So I always tell people when I'm walking through a seller's house, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry about this. I'm like, guys, I haven't seen it all. Don't you think we've been in hoarder houses? We've seen so many things. I had a closing where there was like a bong left on the counter in the kitchen, You're, all of a sudden you're like people, I had one, I'll never forget. It was a agent seller, but he never sold, right? He had his real estate license, but never sold. He had a tenant there
Sure.
and I had the buyer, and he thought like as is meant he could leave it however his tenant left it. Not like empty it, not leave it broom swept, right? So there have been so many things that people the stories that we all have, like I know you guys have them too, that we've seen, it makes it so that nothing really scares you anymore, right? Like
You just roll with it. You just roll with the punches and, meet and create a lot of relationships as you go through the journey. And it sounds like you have created an awful lot of relationships.
oh, I'm so grateful. I always feel like every conversation is for a reason, even if they don't end up working with you. I've had so many times like someone didn't use me as their agent to start with, and then they'll come back around later. Or you have to really realize that like everyone that you talk to is a potential client. So it really matters what you say, and people will always forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. So make people
Yeah.
feel important,
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a really good one. So, Sarah, I know you said you're pretty active on certain social media. If listeners and viewers would like to connect with you and follow your journey, where can they do so?
Oh, you can find me. So, I really wish I had worn my curly hair today because you guys, it won't make sense. But my Instagram handle is Sarah with the big hair. I usually have a real curly hair. People ask me all the time, like, is
Oh.
that a wig? Honestly. But my Instagram is Sarah with the big hair. And then my Facebook is Sarah Hesky, Hesski. It's a marriage between Lewandowski and my husband's name, which is Hess. So together they're Hesky.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah, for coming on with Tina and I today. Our big-haired agent, worker bee, who sold a lot of houses, beat her team lead by one. I think it was more than that between you and me.
No. I see her
But
as just one.
I just still think it's funny you still beat her and you knew it by how much exactly. So
Well,
so good for you. Thanks. What's that?
you're just competitive by nature in our industry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can tell. So thank you so much for coming on with us today. I know you've helped a lot of agents, and that's what we're here to do, to pass that information on to them and help them on their journey. So thank you so much for coming out today.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been such an honor and honestly such a pleasure. You guys really bring so much light to the community, and it really is just such an honor to be even asked to share.
Yep.
And Sarah, congratulations on being nominated for Rookie of the Year, I think in 2023. And we wish you continued success.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for what the future will bring.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to unlockingrealestate@colibrirealestate.com.